Well, a little earlier, I spoke to the actor and director Nick Moran and the author Dreda Say Mitchell about whether they think Brexit will affect the arts here in the UK. And I began by asking what they made of Theresa May's comment that if you're a citizen of the world, you're a citizen of nowhere.
This notion that you've got a Prime Minister who says we're citizens of nowhere needs to get with a programme, she needs to get with a grassroots.
You disagreed with her on that one?
I think I do, yes. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, very clearly disagree with her. And it's those type of
But has Brexit made that easier or more difficult?
I think it's made it easier because I actually think these are issues of diversity, of education, of funding that have been there since the beginning. However, I don't think people in the establishment were taking it seriously enough. However, what you have with Brexit is people are saying, my voice isn't being heard. I feel excluded.
Let's put that to Nick Moran. Nick, what did you think of that?
This underinformed opinion that all of the arts, the money was in the south and it was just so people in London could sit back and enjoy Picasso. It's absolute nonsense. And the way that European film funding and arts funding worked was art shouldn't be a citizen of the world. We're not some strange manila mixed up brown mess. Everybody has a cultural spike and a voice around Europe. And there was funding for people to be able to see that and experience it. All of Mike Leigh's films are funded mostly by the French. Ken Loach's films are funded through Europe.
Okay.
The way that the money moves around is going to stop, and we're going to end up with our own culture celebrating ourselves with no input from anyone else.
Funding is not everything in arts, is it? I mean, it's also about the creative spirit. Does Dreda not have a point that if we focus, if we're in the moment of soul-searching about who we are on this island, this is not a bad thing. This can create a lot of great art. It could be good for creativity.
It becomes a monologue rather than a dialogue. Art is a cross-cultural merge. It's making Raspberry Ripple out of vanilla ice cream. You have to put something else in there. Otherwise, you end up with the same thing. You end up with a boring monologue. And the great thing about European funding and the way that people cross-fertilise is that it generates art. Art is generated by conflict. The conversation we're having in this studio right now is artistic because me and the studio guest don't necessarily agree.
And if you look at creative cities in history, Venice in the 14th century, Rome in the 16th century, Florence, Vienna at the turn of the last century, Berlin in the 1920s. These cities were at their most creative because they embraced the outside. And
I'm saying that. I have to say, I think from the get-go, one of the things that I've always said publicly about when the referendum, when we were going into this, was I find it really backwards to think of ourselves as just European. And particularly, we're in an increasingly multicultural Britain. Why are we just branding ourselves as European? We are international, we're global, but we're also British at the same time.
Let me ask Nick one thing. Isn't the problem, Nick, that in a lot of the conversation, perhaps even this conversation, people outside the metropolitan bubble of London just feel left out of the conversation? It is meaningless to them.
You think that people in Manchester, this huge creative hive that has generated some of the most important music, some of the most vibrant recent art scene, so you think that people in Edinburgh or Glasgow, you think that they think they're outside of the bubble?
Yes.
They'll take us on.
Yes.
They'll roll their sleeves up and take us on. And so what? If we are the capital of this city, we should be heralding it. People in Paris, people outside of Paris aren't moaning about those artists in Paris. That's myopic.
But it's not about...
What you should be is feeding your energy towards the art that generates the thing that we're talking about.
Nick, I think you're out of touch. And I think what you have is I do think you're out of touch. You've got a retrospective hat that you're wearing and you're looking at Britain in the past. You're looking at Britain in the 90s. We're in 2016, and what lots of people... Nick, let me finish. Nick,
let me stop you there, because that's a little bit patronising. Now, we are in 2016. Let's look at this. Let's go retrospective, because history is about being able to learn something and take it forward. We are at the aftermath of what was a fantastic boom in the world of art, theatre, literature, cinema, all of these cultural things. And it came in the wake of the cross-fertilisation across Europe. That's what happened in our little Pearl Britannia explosion.
Nick, not just Europe.
And America,
Nick,
and Europe,
Nick,
and Africa.
Nick,
That's the aftermath.
Nick, I'm black. Nick,
so listen. No. So that's the physical, historical aftermath. And that's where we are. I'm
Not
being
just Europe,
retrospective.
Nick,
I'm
not
not looking
just
retrospective.
Europe.
And I'm not
What-
out of the loop. I'm telling you something that you haven't appreciated.
I have
That's
appreciated
what
it.
happened.
Nick, what you haven't appreciated, because you can't see me, is I'm black. So, you know, and you will say yourself
What
that one of
difference
the...
does that make?
Because my...
What possible difference does that
because
make?
part
What
of my
what
cultural
incredibly
heritage...
irrelevant thing to say.
No, you keep saying it's just about Europe. Part of my cultural heritage, Nick, is from the Caribbean. And the Caribbean, as you know, and I'm sure you will agree, has had an instrumental impact on the culture of Britain.
Massive.
So, yeah,
Brilliant
so
example of how cross-cultural
Yeah, so it's not just about Europe, is it?
Because we have reggae, we have those things that happened in the 60s because of the migration routes. Now that's a
Absolutely.
great example of cross-cultural colonisation. And you're
That's
saying
not
that without
European.
Europe, we won't have it. Because
That's not
it doesn't have to be
European.
Dreda,
It's
can
not
we-
European,
but
it's
can we-
international.
but-
It's not European, it's international,
But can
Nick.
we be
So when you
both?
put
We
the
can be
fence up
open
around
to
this
Europe,
country
and
and
we
you
can be
say
open
that
to the
we're
rest of
not
the world.
part of anywhere else...
What we've done with the Brexit vote is we've not left Europe. What we've done is we've left an organisation, or, well, we'll see what happened, called the EU. That's what we've done. We've not left Europe. We're not leaving the rest of the world.
After this feast, we're going to leave it there. Nick, Dreda, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Thank you.